Hello, my dear students. How are you? It's nice to be with you once again. I am Ma'am Ronaldine D. Ramos, your science teacher, and I will help you learn and understand one of our lessons in the last quarter of this school year. Are you excited? Come on, let's start.
In your previous module, you have learned about the atmosphere and its layers. Let us test your knowledge if you still remember some of the important concepts in your past lesson. Are you ready? Let's start. Arrange the jumbled letters to form the correct word that is being described. Number 1. It is the envelope of air that surrounds the Earth where all weather events happen. Look at the jumbled letters. The answer is atmosphere. Very good. Number 2. It is the layer that increases temperature as the altitude increases and where the ozone layer is found. The answer is stratosphere. Great! Number 3. It is also known as the weather sphere, where the temperature changes and resulting to variation in weather. Correct! That is troposphere. Number 4. It is the hottest layer of the atmosphere due to the presence of ions. That's great! The answer is thermosphere. Very good. And number 5, it is the coldest layer of the atmosphere. Mesosphere is the correct answer. Good job! It really shows that you already understand our past lesson. Weather is a gentle breeze or strong winds. You are most aware of air when it moves. You can feel it pressed against you. You can also see how the wind affects the objects around you. Look at this slide. How can you tell that the wind is blowing? If your answer is because of the movement of the waves and the leaves of the coconut tree, then you're right. And to know more about it, let's proceed to our lesson. Our lesson for today is about the common atmospheric phenomena from the Module 4 in Quarter 4. Our objectives are: compare which warms up faster, land or water. Compare which cools faster, land or water. Explain sea breeze and land breeze. Illustrate why habagat brings lots of rain. Another one is give examples how the monsoons, amihan and habagat affect people. And explain another weather event, the Intertropical Convergence Zone, or also known as the ITCZ. Air movement takes place in the troposphere. The troposphere is the lowest layer of the atmosphere. Air moves because of the difference in temperature. This difference causes convection current and wind. Wind is the air in motion produced by the uneven heating of the Earth's surface by the sun. Breeze is a light or gentle wind which appears due to temperature difference between two air masses. There are two types of breeze. Those are sea breeze and land breeze. To understand more about the sea breeze and land breeze, let us watch this video. Enjoy!
Hi, in this video we are going to look at sea breeze and land breeze. These are natural phenomena, and after them we'll be looking at disasters. A sea breeze and a land breeze only occur because of wind. And first we have to understand what wind is. Wind is air in motion. It is produced by the uneven heating of the Earth's surface by the sun. Since the Earth's surface is made of various land and water formations, it absorbs the sun's radiation unevenly. Two factors are necessary to specify wind: speed and direction. On Earth, we have land and water, the most common different surfaces that we are going to use in this example. So when the sun shines, we know that the sun shines and provides light and heat. So the land heats up faster than the water. And what happens? The air near the surface of the land starts to rise because as it gets heated, it becomes lighter. So as it goes away, it leaves a space which makes cooler air to come in from the sea and gives us wind, as you can see. Let's look at a sea breeze. As already mentioned, we are using land and sea, or land and water, and here when the sun shines, the land heats up faster than the water. So what does it mean? Above land, the air is hot, and above sea, the air is still cool. So there is a temperature difference. Hot air above land and cool air above sea. So what happens? The hot air starts rising, the one that is near the surface of the land, starts rising in the air, leaving a space which needs more air. So cooler air moves in from the sea to try and take up the space of the rising air. As the air rises, it cools up because the higher you go, the cooler it becomes, and the cycle continues. One major characteristic you have to note here, that a sea breeze happens during day because the sun is the major factor here. Let's look at a land breeze. A land breeze happens at night. When night falls, we have warm soil at the shores and warm water, and the warm water which has been heating up during the day. But what happens here? The land cools faster than the water, and here it causes a temperature difference. So what happens here? The air just above the surface of the water is warm and it starts to rise. As it rises, cooler air comes in from the land. Like I've said in the beginning, that the land cools faster than the water. So here, cool air flows in from land and tries to take up the place left by the warm rising air over the sea. Again, what happens here? As the air rises from the sea, it cools down above the sea and runs back, creating a cycle that continues. A sea breeze takes place during daytime and a land breeze takes place during nighttime. As already observed in the earlier slide, a sea breeze happens as the sun heats up water and land, but land heats up faster than the water. So warm air above the land starts to rise, and cooler air from the sea comes in to replace the rising air from the land. On the other hand, a land breeze, like we have seen, happens at night, and this time the sun is gone and cooling has to take place. But here, what causes a difference is that the land cools up faster than the water, and what happens this time, warm air will be rising from the sea and cooler air will be flowing in from the land to replace the rising air over the sea. The cycle also continues, but this time it's in the reverse direction of the sea breeze. So I hope you have understood what a sea breeze is and what a land breeze is.
Based on the video that you've watched a while ago, mayroon tayong two important things to remember. Ano ang mga ito? First is, land always wins. Bakit? Dahil ang land heats faster than water. The land also cools faster than water. Kaya always remember, land always wins. Second, high to low is the only way the atmosphere will go. Why? Because the wind moves from high pressure to low pressure. Ibig sabihin, ang paggalaw ng wind ay mula sa malamig na area kung nasaan ang malamig na hangin, papunta sa mainit na area kung nasaan ang lugar ng mainit na hangin na nawawala dahil ito ay gumagalaw pataas. Papalitan ng malamig na hangin ang nawalang mainit na hangin. Ang malamig na hangin na ito ay maiinitan at gagalaw ulit pataas na papalitan ulit ng malamig na hangin at magpapatuloy ng paulit-ulit. High to low is the only way the atmosphere will go. Para mas malaman natin kung naintindihan ninyo ang napanood, subukan natin ito. Label the diagram using the words below. And now, let's see. Very good! And now, let's try another one. Look carefully the diagram. Label the diagram using the words below. Let us check. Perfect! You did a great job. Aside from the local winds, we are also going to learn about the other common atmospheric phenomena such as monsoon and IPCC. To understand this, let's watch this video.
In our Shansha Amazing episode for today, pag-uusapan natin ang wind system in the Philippines. First, let's differentiate temperature and pressure.
In our discussion about the wind systems in the Philippines, we need to take note and be familiar with the keywords temperature and pressure. Temperature is defined as the measure of the average kinetic energy or energy of motion of the molecules na nasa isang object, indicated by the rise and fall of the column of mercury in a thermometer. On the other hand, pressure is defined as the force exerted on a surface divided by its area covered. We commonly use the units degrees Celsius, Fahrenheit, or Kelvin in describing the quantity of temperature, while we commonly use Pascal in quantifying pressure. To understand the reasons why we have certain wind systems in the Philippines, kailangan malaman muna natin kung saan located at kung ano ang status ng Philippines in terms of the world distribution of temperature, world distribution of pressure, and the general direction of winds on the Earth. This image shows us the world distribution of temperature. Nasaan ang Pilipinas dito? We are located here. We are included in the tropical zone, or the tropics. Ito ay ang region of the Earth surrounding the equator. It is said to be the warmest climate zone. In this picture, we can see the world distribution in terms of pressure. H stands for high and L stands for low. Nasaan ang Pilipinas dito? We are located here, just right above the equator. We are between high and low pressure zones. What does this imply? It implies that the Philippines both experience clouds and precipitation because of low pressure, and also dry weather and mostly clear skies because of high pressure. Our next picture illustrates the wind system of the Earth. Nasaan ang Pilipinas dito? We are somewhere over here. We experience the northeast trade winds. Thus, it is one of our major wind systems here in the Philippines. Ano ang northeast trade winds? Trade winds are winds that blow east to west sa north o sa south part ng equator. Ang northeast trade winds ay trade winds that blow from the northeast. Kaya tinatawag silang northeast trade winds. These winds dominate most of the tropics and subtropics throughout the world. Let's have another trivia. Did you know trade winds were named or termed as trade winds because they originated on the fact that they were most useful to sailboats who carried on trade or commerce during the early days. After discussing the facts on the global level, let's now focus on the wind system in the Philippines. We need to know the prevailing winds in our country. What are prevailing winds? Prevailing winds are persistent winds that blow continually or periodically with the seasons. Sa madaling salita, they are common o usual sila na mararamdaman sa ating bansa. Based sa geographic location ng Philippines, meron tayong tatlong major wind systems. Ang northeast trade winds, northeast monsoon, at southwest monsoon. Natakol na natin kanina ang tungkol sa northeast trade winds. They are simply the winds which come from the north and travel toward the equator. Let's discuss the other two wind systems in the Philippines, the northeast monsoon and southwest monsoon. Ang northeast monsoon o hanging amihan ay nanggagaling sa north, northeast, at east. We usually feel the northeast monsoon during November to February. It is characterized by cool and dry northeast wind with slight to moderate rainfall and a prevailing cold wind that affects the east of the Philippines. The amihan season is also called the high peak season because it brings the best weather conditions. Ang hangin ay malamig, konti lang ang ulan, humidity is low, plus the sunshine is less threatening. Ang second monsoon ay tinatawag na southwest monsoon o ang hanging habagat. The southwest monsoon comes from the southeast trade winds and curves in the southwest direction as it crosses the equator, kaya naging southwest monsoon ang kanyang official name. Its direction is from southwest and south, and we usually feel hanging habagat during the months of May to October. It is characterized by frequent rainfall and high humidity, kaya ang flash floods and landslides are regular incidents during the habagat season, so we should always be careful. Aside from the prevailing winds and local winds in the Philippines, we also need to be familiar with the Intertropical Convergence Zone, or ITCZ. Remember the northeast trade winds and southeast trade winds? What happens when these trade winds meet at the equatorial region? It forms the Intertropical Convergence Zone or the ITCZ. Ano ang ITCZ? Let's zoom in. When the warm, moist air charging from the northeast trade winds and southeast trade winds meet at the equatorial region, they force the air upward o pataas. The rising warm air is known as doldrums. It results in a low-pressure zone at the equatorial region. This region lacks a significant amount of wind and cloudy and rainy. In this picture, you can see two lines, the red line showing the July ITCZ and the blue line showing the January ITCZ. Bakit nagbabago ang position ng ITCZ throughout the year? It is because the ITCZ shifts towards the area of greatest solar radiation or rays from the sun. Thus, it moves northward during March to May when it is summer in the northern hemisphere, and it moves southward during September to February when it is summer in the southern hemisphere. Ang ITCZ ay nagdudulot ng high cloudiness, frequent thunderstorms, and heavy rainfall. Before we have a short quiz about our discussion in this Science Amazing episode, let's have an outline of the topics we have discussed. Today, we talked about the wind system in the Philippines. We discussed the difference between temperature and pressure, the world distribution of temperature, pressure, and winds. We also talked about prevailing winds in the Philippines, monsoons, which are amihan and habagat, local winds, which are land and sea breezes, and finally, we discussed a little about the ITCZ.
I just want to clarify something about this book. It is said in the video that the Philippines is located in the Tropic of Cancer. That's why it is in tropical zone. As you will see, the Philippines is located near the equator. In the distribution of temperature, ito ay matatagpuan sa pagitan ng Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn, which is considered in tropical zone or the tropics. Naintindihan po? I hope it is now clear to you. It's quiz time! Now, let's see if you really understand our lesson. Time for a quick question and answer. Number 1. It occurs during nighttime where the cold air coming from the land blowing towards the sea. The correct answer is land breeze. Correct. Number 2, it is the place where the winds in the tropics meet or converge. The correct answer is Intertropical Convergence Zone or ITCZ. Number 3, it occurs during daytime where the cold air coming from the sea gently blows towards the land. Correct! It is sea breeze. And number 4, it is the cold local wind that is also known as the northeast monsoon. You're right! The answer is amihan. Very good. And lastly, it is the southwest monsoon that brings heavy rains. Correct. The answer is habagat. Good job. Do you have any more question or clarification regarding our lesson? If none, It is the time for you to answer all the activities and assessment in your module. Thank you! Good luck! Stay safe and God bless! These are the sites that I have used as my references in my presentation.